The brutal life of the Death Korps of Krieg offers no mercy, no rest, no hope. I wake each morning to the taste of recycled air, the weight of a mask I cannot remove, and the knowledge that I am nothing but ammunition to be spent. My fingers trace the lasgun that has outlived a dozen owners before me. The trenches stretch for thousands of kilometers, a labyrinth where men are transformed into statistics. 10,000 identical soldiers march into bombardment zones, yet as I watch them die in perfect formation, I notice something strange within myself. Between the thunder of shells and the screams of the dying, I find moments of perfect clarity, moments where I understand that we fight not for victory, but for forgiveness. What terrible sin could demand such endless sacrifice, and why do I alone seem to question it? I remember the first time I killed a man, not an orc or a heretic, but a fellow human. It was during the final days of training. We stood in the trench, 10,000 of us, our masks identical in the sulfur mist. The commissar walked along our line, his coat trailing in the mud. He selected every 10th man and ordered them to step forward. The unlucky ones complied without hesitation. Then he gave us our orders: execute them, a test of loyalty. I raised my lasgun and fired without blinking. We all did, not a single hand trembled. That was my first lesson as a Krieger. The individual means nothing, only the regiment endures. Only the atonement matters. My designation is Trooper HS-2471. My assigned name, used only for battlefield coordination, is Malrek. I serve in the 143rd Siege Regiment of the Death Korps of Krieg. I was born in an artificial womb beneath the toxic surface of a world that destroyed itself rather than surrender to traitors. My first memory is not of a mother's face, but of a rebreather mask being fitted over mine. I have never seen my own reflection. The Death Korps of Krieg do not seek glory. We seek only to die with purpose. Each morning I wake beneath the crushing weight of our sin, a sin committed centuries before my creation, a sin for which we can never be forgiven, a sin we can only hope to balance through endless sacrifice. This is what it means to be born of Krieg. This is what it means to die for the Emperor, again and again and again. My squad was deployed to Vrax Prime 3 standard years ago. Time has little meaning here. The siege has continued for so long that most Imperial records have stopped differentiating between months. We measure progress in meters gained, in lives spent, in ammunition expended. The trench network extends for thousands of kilometers, a labyrinth of death carved into toxic soil. The mud never dries. It consumes everything eventually. Equipment, corpses, hope. We wage war in this festering wound, fighting for scraps of cursed earth. The enemy holds fortifications that have withstood centuries of bombardment. They are heretics, traitors to the Imperium. They must be purged, regardless of the cost. That cost is us. The Death Korps of Krieg. Every morning follows the same ritual. I awaken at 0400 hours to the muffled sound of distant artillery. My gas mask has fused to my face over the years, the rubber and skin becoming one through filth and neglect. I no longer attempt to remove it. The regiment medicae say the procedure would kill me now. I accept this as I accept all things. I check my gear methodically. Lasgun power packs, bayonet, entrenching tool, prayer scrolls, gas filters. Each item is meticulously maintained despite the omnipresent grime. The weapons of Krieg never fail. Only its men are permitted that luxury. The others in my squad perform identical motions. We do not speak unless necessary. Words are inefficient. Actions are what matter. Death is what matters. At 0430, Sergeant Keld distributes the day's combat stims. 2 tablets to suppress fatigue, 1 to dampen fear, another to enhance aggression. The chemical cocktail replaces breakfast. Nutrition comes later, through feeding tubes connected to our masks, if we survive long enough to require it. By 0500, we stand in formation, 10,000 identical soldiers in greatcoats darkened by ash and blood. The commissars patrol our ranks, looking for signs of hesitation or weakness. There is never any to find. The weak do not survive Krieg's training. Today we will attack enemy position Delta 19, a heretic bunker complex that has repelled 7 previous assaults. The survivors of those failures stand among us now, their uniforms more tattered, their resolve unchanged. Failure is merely a delay in Krieg arithmetic. Eventually, the enemy will run out of ammunition. We will never run out of bodies. The order comes down the line. Fix bayonets, the sound of steel sliding against steel ripples through the formation. 10,000 blades catch what little light penetrates the perpetual haze. For a moment, it almost seems beautiful. Then the whistles blow, and we go over the top. The distance between our trench and the enemy position is 400 meters of blasted wasteland. No cover, no concealment, just corpses and craters and razor wire. The artillery stops precisely as we emerge. The sudden silence is more terrifying than any bombardment. Then the enemy guns open up. Men disintegrate around me. Las beams slice through flesh and bone. Heavy bolter rounds transform soldiers into red vapor. I run forward without looking at the fallen. Their sacrifice is noted, their debt diminished. Mine continues to grow with each breath I take. I do not feel fear, the stims ensure that. But there is something else, something I have never shared with the commissars. Between the thunder of explosions and the screams of the dying, there are moments of perfect clarity. Seconds where time slows and I can see the intricate pattern of our advance, the geometric precision of our deaths, the mathematics of war laid bare. In these moments, I understand that our lives and deaths are not random, they are calculated. Each Krieger who falls creates an opportunity, each corpse becomes cover for the next wave. We are not just soldiers, we are ammunition, spent by the Imperium in a war of attrition that has raged for 10,000 years. And in these moments, I find an emotion that should be impossible for one born of Krieg. I find peace. The first wave is obliterated 50 meters from our trench. The second reaches the halfway point before being cut down. My squad is in the third wave. We make it to the 75-meter line, diving into a crater left by yesterday's barrage. The decomposing remains of the previous day's attempt provide a rampart of flesh. Sergeant Kellard checks our status: 3 dead, 2 wounded but functional, 4 combat ready, including myself. The sergeant signals to continue the advance. The wounded are not permitted to retreat. They will serve as covering fire until their lasgun power packs or their hearts cease to function. We crawl forward through mud thick with blood and worse things. My respirator filters strain against the miasma of decay. The ground beneath us shifts and moans. Not all the dead here are truly dead. Some are simply trapped, buried by shellfire or the collapse of trench walls. Their pleas for help go unanswered. Mercy is inefficient, mercy is wasteful, mercy is not the Krieg way. At the 25-meter mark, we prepare for the final rush. The enemy bunker looms before us, a concrete monstrosity bristling with heavy weapons. Its firing slits spew death in mechanical rhythm. 1 shot every 2 seconds from each position. The timing never varies. Heretics may have forsaken the Emperor, but they maintain weapon discipline. Sergeant Kell distributes the remaining crack grenades, 1 per surviving trooper. He does not need to explain their purpose. We will charge the bunker. Most will die creating openings. 1 must reach the firing slit. 1 must deliver the grenade inside. 1 must complete the mission. The Davidson thought that occurs to me is not doubt, not fear. It is simply that I have not yet died. After 3 years on wracks, I remain alive while so many others have fallen. This statistical anomaly troubles me. Perhaps I have not pushed forward with sufficient zeal. Perhaps I have unconsciously preserved myself when I should have sacrificed all. Today I will correct this failing. Today I will prove my devotion. The sergeant raises his hand, then drops it sharply. We surge from our position, running full tilt toward the bunker. The enemy fire intensifies. The trooper to my right vanishes in a spray of red. The one to my left stumbles, his leg vaporized at the knee, then continues crawling forward on his elbows, lasgun still clutched in his hands. I keep running. The distance shrinks. 50 meters, 40, 30, each step bringing me closer to purpose, to atonement. Something strikes my shoulder, spinning me halfway around. I recognize the burning sensation as a lace wound, cauterized instantly by the beam's heat. The limb hangs useless at my side. I transfer my weapon to my functioning arm and continue forward. 20 meters. The bunker's details become visible. Pockmarks from previous assaults. Steel reinforcement showing through cracked ferrocrete. Carefully measured firing slits, each one a rectangle of darkness from which death emerges with clockwork regularity. 10 meters. I am the only one still moving. The rest of my squad lies scattered across the churned earth behind me. Some still fire from where they fell. Others have achieved the peace that awaits all Kriegers. 5 meters. I ready my grenade. My thumb finds the activation rune. 3 seconds once pressed. 2 to close the distance. 1 to complete the mission. I press the rune and surge forward. The bunker slit looms before me, a gunmetal eye in a concrete face. I see the barrel of an autocannon tracking toward me. I see the flash as it fires. I feel the shell pass through the space I occupied a heartbeat ago. Then I am at the slit, my arm thrusting forward, the grenade leaving my fingers just as the autocannon begins to traverse back toward me. I dive to the side as the grenade vanishes into the darkness. The explosion lifts me off my feet and slams me back into the mud. Shrapnel peppers my greatcoat. The bunker remains standing, but smoke now pours from its firing slit. The autocannon is silent. I lie still, waiting for death to find me. It does not come. Instead, a flare rises from our lines. Green. Advance. The bunker's main weapon has been neutralized. Now comes the grinding work of clearing it room by room. As if in response to my thoughts, a new wave of Kriegers appears on the horizon. They advance steadily through the killing ground, lasguns at port arms. They step over the bodies of the fallen without breaking stride. Their masks reveal nothing of the men beneath. In 3 minutes, they reach my position. A medic pauses briefly to assess my wounds. He administers a stim directly through my greatcoat and into my shoulder. The pain recedes immediately. The limb remains useless, but I can stand. Functional, the medic reports to his sergeant, assigned to reserve force. No congratulations for neutralizing the bunker. No recognition of survival against odds, simply a reassignment to continue fighting. This is the way of Krieg, the way it should be. The new squad moves past me toward the bunker. Melter charges are fixed to its armored door. The blast creates an opening just wide enough for 2 men to enter side by side. They disappear into the smoke without hesitation. I follow with the second wave. Inside, the bunker is a charnel house. My grenade killed 3 heretics and wounded several others. The first wave eliminated the rest. Bodies in corrupted flak armor lie sprawled across the floor, their flesh marked with blasphemous symbols. Some still move weakly. Krieger bayonets ensure they stop. Room by room, we secure the position. Each chamber requires its toll, in blood. By the time we reach the command center, half the clearing force is dead. The remainder show various wounds but continue to function. The heretic commander dies with a lasgun bayonet through his throat, still shouting obscenities against the Emperor. Once the position is secure, Vox operators signal our lines. The bunker has fallen. A single paragraph in tomorrow's regimental report. A handful of meters gained in a war that spans planets. I stand amidst the carnage, my useless arm hanging at my side, and look at the faces of the enemy. They were human once. Now their features are twisted by warp exposure and surgical modification. I feel nothing for them. They chose their path. But there is something I do feel, standing here in this blood-soaked room with the smell of cooked flesh filtering through my mask. That same impossible emotion, that same perfect peace. For a moment, between one heartbeat and the next, I understand. We Kriegers do not fight for victory. Victory is irrelevant. We fight for penance. Each death, ours or theirs, is a payment against a debt that can never be fully settled. Each meter of ground taken is not a step toward triumph but toward absolution, and in that understanding I find a terrible beauty. I am still standing there when Commissar Theoden enters the bunker. His greatcoat is immaculate despite the filth that surrounds us. His face, unlike ours, is visible, stern, unyielding. He surveys the scene with clinical detachment. "Trooper," he addresses me, "your designation?" "HS-2471, sir. Assigned name, Malrek." He consults a data slate. "You neutralized the autocannon. It is not a question, but I answer anyway. I completed my assignment, sir." He nods once. "You will return to base for medical treatment. Your arm can be replaced. Your regiment requires functional soldiers." "Sir." I salute with my working arm. The Commissar has already moved on, inspecting the captured equipment and Vox systems. My momentary interaction with authority is complete. As I exit the bunker, I see that a new trench line is already being established. Kriegers with entrenching tools dig methodically into the toxic soil. Others drag the dead into neat rows for the ministrations of the regiment's mortuary cult. Identity tags are collected. Equipment is salvaged. Nothing is wasted. In the distance, artillery begins falling on the next target. The cycle continues. The debt diminishes by fractions. I make my way back toward our lines, one more shadow moving through a landscape of shadows. Tomorrow I will receive a replacement arm, grown in the Medicae vats. Tomorrow I will return to the line. Tomorrow I will kill and perhaps die. And if I do not die tomorrow, there will be another tomorrow after that, and another, stretching forward until the statistical anomaly of my survival is finally corrected. This is the way of Krieg. This is our atonement. This is our immortality. 6 months pass. My replacement arm functions adequately. Its pale synthetic skin contrasts with my natural coloration, but such aesthetic concerns are irrelevant beneath the greatcoat and perpetual grime. I have participated in 17 major assaults since the bunker. Each time, I have survived when probability dictated I should not. My squad has been completely replaced 3 times. Only Sergeant Keld and I remain from the original complement. The siege continues its inexorable progression. Vrax still holds, but its outer defenses have been breached. We fight now in the maze like corridors of abandoned manufactoria. The Death Korps excels in this environment. Confined spaces, limited sightlines, close-quarters combat where bayonet and entrenching tool are more practical than lasgun. Today we clear Manufactorum Complex 17. Once, it produced components for Lehman Russ battle tanks. Now it produces only corpses. The heretics have converted its assembly lines into altars for their dark rituals. The walls bear symbols that hurt the eyes to look upon. The air tastes of copper and ozone, even through our filtration systems. Sergeant Keld leads us through the darkness. Power has been cut to confuse our advance. It is a futile tactic. Kriegers train in darkness. We fight as efficiently in pitch blackness as we do in daylight. We move in standard formation. 2 troopers forward, 1 covering each flank, sergeant and Vox operator in the center, 2 troopers rear guard. Our footsteps echo on metal catwalks. Occasionally something liquid drips from overhead pipes. We do not speculate on its nature. The Vox operator, a new replacement designated HS-3812, carries orders from command. We are to secure the central control room and hold it until reinforcements arrive. Intelligence suggests the heretics have converted it into a command center for this sector. Eliminating their leadership will fragment their resistance. We encounter the first resistance at Junction 12. Heretic cultists emerge from side passages, screaming battle cries to their dark gods. They wear the tattered remains of worker coveralls, now festooned with human bones and flayed skin. Their weapons are a mix of industrial tools and scavenged autoguns. Sergeant Keld raises his hand, then drops it. We fire in unison. Disciplined volleys of las fire cut through the disorganized charge. Cultists drop by the dozen. Those who reach our line meet Krieger steel. The clash lasts approximately 45 seconds. When it is finished, 23 cultists lie dead. 1 trooper from our squad, HS-4011, has sustained a deep laceration to the throat where a cultist's improvised blade found the seal of his mask. He bleeds out in seconds. We record his tag number and continue without pause. His equipment is distributed among the squad. His body remains where it fell. The carrion servitors will collect it later, if anything remains. The manufactorum grows more twisted as we advance deeper. Machinery has been contorted into unnatural configurations. Faces seem to emerge from solid metal, screaming in silent agony. The walls themselves appear to breathe in certain sections. Warp contamination, Sergeant Keld observes. Fix bayonets, the enemy will be close. Sergeant Keld has served in the Death Korps for 27 standard years. He has survived 16 planetary campaigns. His mask bears the campaign markings of Vrax, Desolane Prime, and the Third Cleansing of Mega Era. His left leg is a bionic replacement from mid-thigh down. His right eye has been augmented with targeting optics after sustaining damage during the assault on Hive Tertius. He is the closest thing to a living legend that exists in the Death Korps, which means only that he has failed to die appropriately 27 years running. We continue through corridors that increasingly defy geometric logic. Passages that should connect based on our schematics instead lead to dead ends or double back on themselves. The Vox operator reports increasing interference. Our link to command weakens with each meter of advance. Despite these challenges, Sergeant Keld navigates unerringly toward our objective. He consults his compass frequently, ignoring the fact that it spins randomly in proximity to certain walls. He relies instead on instinct honed through decades of siege warfare. We reach the antechamber to the control room after 2 hours of steady advance. The massive blast doors stand partially open, jammed by the desiccated corpse of a servitor caught when they attempted to seal. Beyond, we can see flickering lights and hear chanting in a language that makes my replacement arm spasm uncontrollably. Sergeant Kellard motions us into standard breach position. 2 troopers with melter charges move to the opening. The rest of us prepare covering fire. The plan is simple. Breach, enter, eliminate all hostiles, secure the objective. The charges are set. The troopers retreat to safe distance. The detonation sequence begins. Something goes wrong. The explosion comes. Not from our charges, but from the ceiling above us. Shrapnel and debris rain down. A section of catwalk crashes onto our position. 2 troopers are crushed instantly. The Vox operator loses his arm, the limb severed cleanly at the shoulder. He does not scream. Kriegers are conditioned against such inefficient responses to injury. From the hole above, figures descend on chains and grappling hooks. Their armor is crimson and brass, adorned with spikes and symbols of the blood god. Traitor Astartes, world eaters, the most savage of the Emperor's fallen sons. Withdraw, Sergeant Kellard orders calmly. Priority Alpha. Priority Alpha, a threat beyond our capability to engage. Even the Death Korps recognizes certain tactical realities. Traitor Marines are not opponents for regular line infantry. Even Krieg infantry. We begin a fighting retreat, laying down suppressive fire that we know will do little more than irritate our pursuers. The traitor Marines laugh as last beams splash harmlessly off their corrupted power armor. One catches a trooper by the neck and tears his head from his shoulders, mask and all. Another impales the wounded Vox operator on a chain axe, lifting him screaming into the air as the weapon revs higher. I fire steadily, aiming for eye lenses and joint seals as I back away. My shots connect but seem to cause no meaningful damage. The World Eater nearest me grins beneath his helmet, teeth filed to points visible even in the gloom. Run, little guardsman, he rumbles, voice distorted by Vox emitters and madness. Your fear flavors the kill. Kriegers do not feel fear, I respond, and drive my bayonet toward his eye lens. He catches my lasgun with one gauntleted hand and snaps it in 2. His other hand fastens around my throat, lifting me from the ground. My boots dangle uselessly a meter above the decking. Through my mask, I smell the corruption that rolls off him in waves, blood and brass and decay. Then die without it, he snarls, and draws back his fist to punch through my chest. The impact never comes. Instead, The Marine's head suddenly jerks sideways. A hole appears in his helmet where the right eye lens had been. His grip loosens enough for me to break free and drop to the floor. Sergeant Khaled stands 10 meters away, a plasma pistol in his hand that I had never seen him carry before. Standard Krieg officers do not typically wield such weapons. The sergeant fires again, catching another Marine in the faceplate. The traitor staggers but does not fall. Frag grenades, Keld orders. Collapse the passage. We throw our remaining grenades as one, targeting the ceiling and walls already weakened by the Marine's entry. The explosions rock the manufactorum. Metal screams, concrete shatters, the passage begins to collapse. Move, Sergeant Khaled commands, and we run. Behind us, the World Eaters roar in frustration as tons of debris separate us. It will not hold them for long, but it might buy us enough time to reach reinforcements or a more defensible position. We emerge from the manufactorum complex into the perpetual twilight of Vrax. The toxic atmosphere swirls around us, a familiar poison after the unnatural air inside. Sergeant Keld immediately activates his emergency Vox unit, broadcasting on all Imperial frequencies. Traitor Astartes confirmed at Manufactorum Complex 17. World Eaters Warband, strength estimated at squad level. Request immediate Astartes response. Only static answers. The sergeant adjusts frequencies and repeats the message. This time, a reply cuts through the interference. Message received, Death Korps. Astartes response inbound. Coordinates confirmed. Hold position and await extraction. The voice is cold and precise. Space Marines then, loyal ones. The reinforcements mentioned in our orders were never meant to be more Kriegers. Command knew what waited in the control room. We were sent as confirmation, not conquest. I look at Sergeant Khaled. For the first time, I notice details I had previously overlooked. The subtle differences in his equipment, the non-standard sidearm, the way he carries himself, more aware than even veteran Kriegers. You knew, I say. It is not an accusation, merely an observation. Keld regards me for a moment, his expression unreadable behind his mask. I suspected. Intelligence indicated possible Astartes involvement, but confirmation was required before committing our own Marines to the engagement. We were bait, says another trooper. HS-1992. We were reconnaissance, Keld corrects. Every mission serves the Emperor's purpose. Every death brings atonement. The trooper nods, accepting this explanation without further comment. I do the same. It changes nothing. Whether we die facing cultists or traitor Marines makes no difference to the tally of our penance. We establish a perimeter around the Manufactorum entrance. 6 Kriegers against a war band of World Eaters. The tactical assessment is simple. We will die here, but we will die delaying the enemy until proper Imperial forces arrive. Our deaths will have purpose. That is all any Krieger asks. The ground begins to vibrate beneath our feet. At first, I think the traitor Marines have found another way out and are about to emerge. Then I realize the vibration is rhythmic, regular, mechanical. From the smoke and haze, massive shapes emerge. Imperial Knights, House Raven, their midnight blue armor adorned with golden aquilers and crimson oath papers. 3 war machines, each standing 15 meters tall, stride toward our position. Their weapons systems hum with barely contained energy. Behind them come the Space Marines. Their armor is gunmetal gray with crimson pauldrons, iron hands, the sons of Ferrus Manus. They advance in perfect formation, bolters at the ready, their augmented bodies housing more machine than flesh. A voice booms from the lead knight's external vox. Death Korps, clear the area. We will purge this corruption. Sergeant Keld salutes the towering war machine. The enemy remains within. At least 5 traitor Astartes, World Eaters Legion. The knight's pilot doesn't bother responding. The machine simply raises its thermal cannon and fires into the Manufactorum entrance. The heat is so intense that I feel it through my greatcoat and mask from 30 meters away. The entire facade of the building glows white hot. then begins to melt. The iron hands move past us as if we don't exist. To them, we are no different from the sandbags and razor wire that litter the battlefield, simply another component of war. One of their officers, distinguished by a skull-faced helm, pauses briefly beside Sergeant Keld. "Casualty report," the Marine demands. "4 dead, confirming traitor Astartes' presence," Keld responds. "2 dead during initial advance." The Marine nods once. "Acceptable losses for the intelligence gained. Return to your lines. This is now an Astartes matter." With that, he rejoins his brothers as they prepare to enter the now cooling ruins of the Manufactorum entrance. The knights take up position to provide fire support. None of them spare us another glance. We are dismissed, our role complete, our deaths deferred to another day. As we begin the long walk back to Krieg lines, I find myself reflecting on the Iron Hand's words. Acceptable losses. Such a familiar concept. The arithmetic of Krieg is built upon it. Yet hearing it from a space marine somehow makes it more concrete, more real. The Imperium functions on acceptable losses. Planets, regiments, individuals, all are expendable in the calculus of survival. The Death Korps simply embraces this truth more honestly than most. We march in silence, conserving energy and breath. The path back to our lines takes us past the mass graves of previous offensives. Burial details work continuously, interring the newly fallen in trenches 50 meters long. No markers identify the dead, no monuments commemorate their sacrifice, only the regimental records note who fell where, and those entries contain no eulogies, simply dates, coordinates, and outcomes, acceptable losses. I glance at my replacement arm as we walk. The pale synthetic skin is already stained with the omnipresent grime of Vrax. Soon it will be indistinguishable from my natural limb. Another repair, another opportunity to continue serving. Another day of atonement deferred. Behind us, the sound of battle erupts as the Iron Hands engage the World Eaters. Bolter fire echoes across the blasted landscape. The distinctive whoosh of thermal cannons cuts through the constant background rumble of artillery. We do not look back. That fight no longer concerns us. Our fight is eternal, our penance unyielding. This is the way of Krieg. We reach our lines shortly before dusk, though on Vrax, the difference between day and night exists more in chronometers than in visible light. The permanent overcast, thickened by pollution and weapon discharge, creates a perpetual twilight state. Some troopers who have served here for many years have developed vision problems from the constant gloom. Their masks are modified with light amplification lenses that give them an even more inhuman appearance. Command acknowledges our return without ceremony. Our report is logged. The casualties are noted. Replacement troopers are assigned to bring our squad back to full strength. We are given 12 hours for recovery and equipment maintenance, then assigned to a new offensive scheduled to begin at 0500. In the dugout that serves as our barracks, I clean my lasgun methodically. The weapon Sergeant Keld issued me to replace the one destroyed by the World Eater is older than my previous one, its grip worn smooth by countless hands before mine. The serial number indicates it was manufactured on Mars itself over 2 centuries ago. Like everything in the Death Korps, it has outlived dozens of owners. As I work, I observe the replacement troopers. They arrived in the latest reinforcement draft 3 days ago. Their greatcoats are still the regulation gray, not yet stained black by Vrax's atmosphere. Their movements are precise but lack the unconscious economy of veterans. They will learn quickly or join the mass graves. One of them, designated HS-5532, sits on the bunk across from mine. His hands move through the ritual of weapon maintenance with textbook precision. Too precise, too deliberate, a telltale sign of recent indoctrination. His mask turns slightly toward me, sensing my attention. "You were present at Manufactorum Complex 17, he says. Not a question. News travels quickly in the regiment, despite our reputation for silence. I was. I confirm, continuing to clean my weapon. You encountered traitor Astartes and survived. I pause in my work. There is something in his tone that disturbs me. something that should not exist in a Krieger's voice. Or, we completed our reconnaissance mission. I correct him. Survival was incidental. The trooper nods, his mask dipping slightly. Of course, the mission is paramount, but still, to see the archenemy in such form, to witness the corrupted grandeur of those who once served the Emperor directly. Now I understand. This one has not yet embraced the Krieg mindset fully. There remains in him a capacity for wonder, for spiritual curiosity, dangerous traits that should have been eliminated during creation and training. There was nothing to witness, I tell him flatly. Only targets of different capabilities requiring different tactics to neutralize. The form of the enemy is irrelevant. But they were Astartes, he persists. The Emperor's own warriors turned against him. Does that not signify something profound about the nature of... Sergeant Keld materializes behind the trooper, moving with the silent efficiency that makes him so lethal in close quarters. The nature of what, Trooper HS-5532? He asks, his voice emotionless. The replacement trooper stiffens. Nothing. Sergeant, a moment of inappropriate speculation. It will not recur. Keld regards him silently for several seconds. Then he pulls a small device from his belt pouch. It resembles a Medicae injector but with a more elaborate delivery mechanism. Without warning, he presses it against the trooper's neck, finding the small gap between mask and collar. There is a pneumatic hiss. Report to Commissar Theoden at 0430 tomorrow, instead of regular formation. Keld orders. Inform him that Variant 17 conditioning has proven inadequate in your case. Further adjustment is required. Yes, Sergeant. HS-5532 responds. His voice has already changed, growing flatter, the curiosity leached away by whatever compound Keld administered. The sergeant moves away without further comment, continuing his inspection of the squad's readiness. I return to my weapon maintenance, but find my thoughts lingering on the exchange. Variant 17 conditioning. The implication that there are different templates for Krieg troopers, different production parameters. It makes logical sense. Even in mass production, specialization improves efficiency. Some Kriegers become grenadiers, others join the Combat Engineer Corps. Still others serve in Death Rider cavalry units. Each role would require specific conditioning. Yet I had always assumed the core mentality remained consistent. The absolute devotion to duty. The unwavering acceptance of sacrifice. The complete sublimation of the individual to the whole. What other variations might exist? What other templates walk among us behind identical masks? I push the thought away. Such speculation serves no purpose. It does not aid the mission. It does not further our atonement. I complete my weapon maintenance and move on to checking my other equipment. The stim injectors in my mask need recalibration. The rebreather filters require replacement after exposure to the corrupted atmosphere of the manufactorum. My rations pouch contains 2 nutrient blocks that should have been consumed yesterday. I address each issue with methodical precision. Around me, the rest of the squad does the same. Sergeant Keld observes without comment. The new trooper, HS-5532, sits motionless on his bunk, his partially disassembled lasgun forgotten in his hands. The sergeant's injection has rendered him temporarily compliant. Tomorrow, the commissar will ensure that compliance becomes permanent. After equipment maintenance, we are permitted 4 hours of sleep. We arrange ourselves on our bunks in ordered rows, greatcoats still on, masks still in place. Sleep comes instantly. Kriegers are conditioned to maximize rest periods. We do not dream. Dreams are inefficient. At 0400, the alarm sounds. We rise as one and prepare for the day's offensive. HS-5532 separates from our formation, heading toward the commissar's quarters as ordered. I do not expect to see him again. If the reconditioning succeeds, he will be reassigned to prevent reinforcement of problematic thought patterns. If it fails, he will be repurposed for less cognitively demanding roles. Either way, our paths will not cross again. The rest of us report to the assembly area where 10,000 Kriegers stand in perfect formation. Today's target is Artillery Firebase Secundus, a heavily fortified plateau that provides the enemy with commanding fire lanes across 3 sectors of our advance. Intelligence indicates it contains no less than 12 Basilisk artillery pieces and numerous heavy weapon emplacements. Previous attempts to capture it have failed with casualties exceeding 80%. Commissar Theoden addresses us from an elevated platform. His voice, amplified by Vox units, cuts through the pre-dawn gloom. Death Korps of Krieg. He begins, his tone as flat and implacable as our own. You advance today in the Emperor's name against the heretics who hold Firebase Secundus. The firebase must fall so that our armor can advance. You will take it regardless of cost. You will hold it until relieved. The Emperor demands no less. Krieg offers no less. Simple, direct. No inspiring rhetoric or appeals to glory. None are needed. We are Kriegers. We exist to advance and to die. The Commissar continues with specific tactical details. The advance will occur in 3 waves, with armor support limited to initial bombardment only. The terrain is too unstable for tanks. The Air Corps cannot provide coverage due to enemy flak batteries. We will have only our bodies, our faith, and our determination. As the Commissar speaks, I find my attention drawn to Sergeant Keld. He stands slightly apart from the other non-commissioned officers, consulting a data slate. The light from the screen illuminates his mask from below, creating strange shadows. For a brief, irrational moment, it seems as if there is nothing behind that mask, nothing at all. The thought vanishes as quickly as it formed. Of course there is something behind the mask. A man, a Krieger, like me, but older, more experienced, more valuable to the regiment. Still, I cannot help but notice how the other sergeants maintain a subtle distance from Khaled, as if he exists in a different category altogether, as if he is not quite one of them. The Commissar concludes his briefing. The regiment responds with a single word, spoken by 10,000 voices in perfect unison. Krieg. We are dismissed to our jump-off positions. The assault will begin in exactly 30 minutes. Just enough time to reach our designated trenches and prepare final equipment checks. As we file out, I find myself immediately behind Sergeant Keld. From this angle, I notice something I had not seen before. A small symbol etched into the back of his mask, just below the rebreather housing. Not a standard Imperial icon or regiment marking. Something older, a stylized skull inside a cog, the symbol of the Mechanicus, specifically the symbol of the Biologus Division. Before I can process this observation, Keld turns suddenly, as if sensing my attention. His lenses meet mine. Is your equipment functional, Trooper HS-2471? Yes, Sergeant. I respond automatically. Good. You will advance with the first wave today. Position Gamma 9, the firebase's eastern approach. I acknowledge the order without reaction, though it registers as unusual. The eastern approach is known to be the most heavily defended, with overlapping fields of fire and the steepest incline. Casualties there will approach 100%. It is where the regiment sends those who must be expended. Is this assignment punishment, Sergeant? I ask. Kriegers do not fear death, but we recognize efficiency. My record shows above-average survival statistics. Placing me in a high casualty position represents suboptimal resource allocation. Keld regards me silently for several seconds. Then he adjusts something on his mask. When he speaks again, his voice has changed. The flat Krieg accent remains, but beneath it runs something else. Something colder, more precise. Not punishment, HS-2471. Observation. You have demonstrated statistical anomalies that warrant closer monitoring. Statistical anomalies, Sergeant. Survival rate exceeding projected parameters. Cognitive function maintaining optimal efficiency despite extended combat exposure. Adaptation to replacement limb 8% faster than baseline. These variations require explanation. I process this information. I strive to serve efficiently, Sergeant. Indeed. Perhaps too efficiently. Keld tilts his head slightly. Report to position Gamma 9. Perform as expected. Your compliance will be noted. The sergeant moves away, leaving me with questions I should not have. Questions no proper Krieger would formulate, yet they form nonetheless, unbidden and unwelcome. What does Keld mean by projected parameters? Why would efficient service warrant special observation? And most troubling, why does a Death Korps sergeant bear Mechanicus markings? I push these thoughts aside and make my way to position Gamma 9. The eastern approach to Firebase Secundus lies before me, a barren slope littered with the remains of previous assaults. Even from here, I can see the heavy weapon emplacements that ring the plateau's edge. They will open fire the moment our advance begins. They will not cease until they are destroyed or we are. The troopers gathered at position Gamma 9 avoid eye contact with each other. We all understand what this assignment means. We check our weapons one final time. We ensure our identification tags are properly secured. We prepare to die. At precisely 0530, the signal comes. A single red flare arcs over the battlefield, trailing sparks against the leaden sky. Without a word, we go over the top. The first 100 meters pass in eerie silence. The enemy holds fire, conserving ammunition, forcing us to advance further into the killing zone before revealing their full strength. Only the crunch of our boots on toxic soil and the rasp of our rebreathers disturb the quiet. I advance at regulation pace, lasgun held at port arms. Around me, 200 Kriegers move in perfect synchronization. Our formation maintains textbook spacing, 5 meters between troopers, close enough for cohesion, far enough apart that a single shell cannot claim multiple lives. At the 150-meter mark, the enemy reveals themselves. Heavy bolters open fire from concealed bunkers. Autocannons track across our formation, their explosive shells throwing up geysers of dirt and flesh. Las fire snaps through the air, the beams visible in the particulate-heavy atmosphere. Men begin to fall. First ones and twos, then dozens. Gaps appear in our line but are instantly compensated for as we adjust our spacing automatically. We return fire as we advance, though the range makes accuracy difficult. This initial exchange is not about inflicting casualties. It is about movement, about closing distance, about surviving long enough to bring our weapons to effective range. I fire methodically, 3-round bursts aimed at muzzle flashes rather than specific targets, conserving power, maintaining discipline. A shell impacts 3 meters to my right, shredding a trooper whose designation I never knew. I adjust my path to avoid the crater and continue forward. 200 meters from the firebase, the second phase begins. Mortar rounds rain down, saturating the slope with high explosive and fragmentation munitions. The air fills with shrapnel. Men disintegrate around me. A fragment slices through my greatcoat but fails to penetrate. Another grazes my mask, leaving a fresh score mark across the right lens. I keep moving. The only direction is forward. Retreat means execution by commissar. Hesitation means death without purpose. Only advance offers the possibility of meaningful sacrifice. At 300 meters, we enter optimal range for our lasguns. The order comes down the line, passed from sergeant to trooper. Concentrated fire, target bunker embrasures. Our rate of fire increases. Disciplined volleys now, coordinated between fire teams, 50 lasguns targeting a single firing slit for 3 seconds before switching to the next target. The concentrated energy is enough to temporarily blind gunners or damage targeting equipment. It creates momentary gaps in the enemy's fire pattern, gaps we exploit to advance further, 400 meters. Half our initial strength gone, the slope grows steeper. My boots slip on ground made slick with blood and toxic chemicals. I correct my balance and keep climbing. Fix bayonets, comes the order. The sound of steel sliding against steel. The enemy will have close combat specialists waiting at the summit. men twisted by warp exposure, men who no longer feel pain or fear, men who fight with unnatural strength and savagery. We will meet them with cold Krieg efficiency, 500 meters. The firebase looms above us now. I can see individual defenders moving along the ramparts, cultists in corrupted flak armor. Some wear parts of Imperial Guard uniforms taken as trophies from previous battles. They shout obscenities and blasphemies, their voices carrying even over the din of combat. For the dark gods, they cry. Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. We respond with silence and lasgun fire. 600 meters. The incline becomes almost vertical. We holster our weapons and climb using both hands. The enemy lobs grenades down upon us. Some troopers are dislodged by explosions, tumbling back down the slope, taking others with them. I press myself against the rocky surface, finding handholds in crevices, pulling myself upward meter by agonizing meter. A grenade lands on a ledge just above me. I have less than 2 seconds to react. I push off from the rock face, arcing backward into open air as the grenade detonates. The shockwave propels me further. For a moment, I hang suspended, neither advancing nor retreating. Then gravity reasserts itself. I crash back against the slope 5 meters below my previous position. The impact drives the air from my lungs. Pain lances through my ribcage, probable fractures in multiple locations. I catalog the injuries automatically. None are immediately fatal, none prevent continued function. I begin climbing again. By the time I reach the summit, only 30 troopers from position Gamma 9 remain. We pull ourselves over the edge one by one, immediately taking cover behind rubble and debris. The firebase's interior lies before us, a maze of sandbag walls, prefabricated bunkers, and artillery emplacements. The basilisks stand in a ring around a central command post, their long barrels elevated to fire at Imperial positions kilometers away. Sergeant Tyrus, the senior surviving non-commissioned officer, directs our next actions with silent hand signals. We are to split into 5-man teams and attack the artillery pieces, disable them if possible, destroy them if necessary. The Emperor's forces can use captured weapons, but denying them to the enemy takes priority. My team consists of myself and 4 troopers I have never fought alongside before. Their designations are irrelevant. Only their function matters. 2 carry melter bombs. 1 operates a flamer. The 4th has a sniper variant of the standard lasgun. I retain my conventional lasgun with bayonet attached. Together, we form a balanced tactical unit capable of engaging various target types at different ranges. We advance in leapfrog fashion toward our assigned basilisk. 1 trooper moves while the others provide covering fire. The firebase defenders respond with surprising coordination. They have survived months of Imperial assault. They are no longer the rabble they may once have been. They have become soldiers, dangerous ones. Cultists in heavy carapace armor move to intercept us. Their weapons are a mix of Imperial Guard issue and crude fabrications. They lack our discipline but compensate with fanatical aggression and numbers. For every one we kill, 2 more emerge from bunkers and trenches. The flamer trooper creates a corridor of fire through which we advance. Cultists shriek as Promethium adheres to their armor and flesh, cooking them alive inside their protection. The smell of burning meat filters through my mask's rebreather. I ignore it and keep firing. We reach the basilisk as the flamer trooper falls, his head vaporized by a well-placed last bolt. The massive artillery piece looms above us, its crew scrambling to traverse the barrel to fire at point-blank range. The sniper takes down the gunner with a precise shot through an eye lens. The loader falls to my bayonet thrust, the blade finding the gap between his flak armor and helmet. The melter bomb carriers rush forward, planting their charges on the basilisk's ammunition storage compartment and main hydraulic system. We retreat to safe distance as the charges detonate. The explosion lifts the multi-ton artillery piece half a meter and into the air before it crashes back down, its spine broken, its weapon systems irreparably damaged. 1 objective complete. But the cost is high. Of our 5-man team, Only I and one melter bomb carrier remain functional. The other melter gunner lost both legs to a fragmentation grenade, but detonated his charge before bleeding out. The sniper lies somewhere behind us, lost in the confused melee. Across the firebase, similar scenes play out. Krieger teams attack artillery pieces with suicidal determination. Some succeed, some fail. But the cumulative effect disrupts the enemy's ability to maintain systematic artillery fire on our main advance. This was the mission's primary objective. Even if none of us survive to retreat, the operation can be classified as a success. I check my weapon and remaining power packs. 2 full charges and 1 partial remain. Sufficient for continued combat operations. I signal the surviving melter bomb carrier, indicating we should join the nearest Krieger unit still engaged in clearing operations. As we move toward the center of the firebase, I notice a peculiar structure that does not appear on any of our briefing maps. A pyramidal shape constructed from metal plates welded together in a crude approximation of more sophisticated designs. Symbols cover its surface, similar to those we observed in the manufactorum but more carefully rendered. More deliberate, the structure pulses with unnatural light, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. My instinct is to report this anomaly immediately, but our Vox units have limited range and the command post is too distant. I must gather more information before attempting to signal for specialized response teams. I gesture for the melter bomb carrier to follow as I approach the structure cautiously. As we draw closer, I hear sounds emanating from within. Not machinery, not weapons fire. Something organic. Rhythmic chanting in a language that makes my replacement arm spasm uncontrollably. The same reaction I experienced in the manufactorum. This cannot be coincidence. Something about these specific sound frequencies interacts with the synthetic materials in my arm. Perhaps a form of resonance effect, or some more esoteric mechanism beyond my technical understanding. We circle the structure, looking for an entrance. The pyramid is approximately 15 meters tall, its base 20 meters to a side. The metal plates show signs of extreme heat exposure, as if they were cut from larger structures using thermal lances or similar tools. The craftsmanship is crude but effective. On the eastern face, we find an opening, a triangular portal just large enough for a human to enter in a crouched position. No guards visible, no obvious defensive systems. Just the entrance and the pulsing light beyond. Every aspect of Krieg conditioning demands that I report this discovery rather than investigate personally. Yet something overrides that conditioning. Something I cannot identify or understand, a compulsion that feels both alien and strangely familiar. I signal the melter bomb carrier to remain outside as a sentry and possible messenger. Then I crouch and enter the pyramid alone. Inside, the space opens into a chamber much larger than the exterior dimensions should allow. Logically impossible, yet I perceive it clearly. A space that extends both upward and downward beyond the physical constraints of the structure itself. In the center stands an altar. Not the crude blood-soaked slabs favored by cultists, but something more sophisticated. A console of dark metal inlaid with circuitry that pulses with the same rhythmic light visible from outside. Around this altar kneel 12 figures in robes. Not cultists. Their garments bear no chaos markings or blasphemous symbols. Instead, I see the cog skull of the Mechanicus emblazoned on their backs. The same symbol I observed on Sergeant Keld's mask. They do not react to my entrance. Their attention remains fixed on the altar and the object that floats above it. A sphere of what appears to be liquid metal, approximately 1 meter in diameter. It rotates slowly, its surface rippling with complex patterns that hurt my eyes to follow. I should fire immediately. These are clearly tech heretics engaged in forbidden rituals. The proper response is execution without warning or mercy. Yet I find myself unable to raise my weapon. Not through fear or hesitation, but because of a more fundamental question that overrides my conditioning. Why do they bear the same symbol as Sergeant Keld? As if in response to my unspoken question, one of the robed figures turns, His hood falls back, revealing not the face of a human, but a metal mask. Not the standard rebreather mask of Krieg, but something more elaborate, more ancient. The eye lenses glow with the same pulsing light as the altar. HS-2471, the figure says, "Your presence is anticipated if premature. He knows my designation. This cannot be coincidence or random chance. This was planned. Identify yourself, I demand, finally raising my lasgun. We have many designations," the figure responds. To the Mechanicus, we are the Observators. To the Inquisition, the heretics of Styges 8. To the Death Korps Command, simply the Providers. None of these terms register in my knowledge base. They should mean nothing to me. Yet there is a familiarity that defies explanation, as if I have heard them before in a context I cannot access. "You are engaged in tech heresy," I state, finger tightening on the trigger. "The penalty is death." "Is it heresy to examine one's creation?" the figure asks. "Is it blasphemy to verify that a template functions as designed?" "You stand here now because we wish to confirm certain variables in your construction." Construction. The word emerges before I can prevent it. A question that no true Krieger would ask. A concept no true Krieger would entertain. Yes, HS-2471, your construction, your creation, your purpose. The figure gestures toward the floating sphere. "Come closer, see what you truly are. I should fire. I should kill this heretic and destroy their blasphemous technology. I should fulfill my duty as a soldier of the Imperium, as a Krieger." Instead, I step forward. The sphere's surface shifts as I approach, its liquid metal reconfiguring to form a reflective plane. For the first time since my earliest memories, I see my own face, or rather, I see my mask. The standard Krieg pattern, eyepieces dark behind protective lenses, rebreather grill where a mouth should be. Exactly as it should appear. Then the reflection changes. The mask dissolves, revealing what lies beneath. Not flesh, not bone, not even the augmetic components common to veteran guardsmen. Liquid metal. The same substance as the sphere itself. A face formed of living metal that mimics human features without truly reproducing them. A simulacrum rather than a replacement. What am I seeing? I demand, though part of me already knows. Part of me has always known, buried beneath layers of conditioning and artificial memory. You are seeing Template HS, Variant 2471, the robed figure explains, one of our more successful designs, a construct of mechanical systems and synthetic biology, enhanced with properties derived from materials not native to this dimension. A construct, I repeat the word, testing it against my understanding of myself. It should feel wrong, impossible. Yet it resonates with a truth I have subconsciously recognized. I am not human. You never were, the figure confirms. None of them are. The Death Korps of Krieg exhausted its human population centuries ago. What remained was insufficient to meet imperial tithe requirements. Alternative production methods became necessary. The implications cascade through my mind, the endless supply of identical soldiers, the lack of individual variation, the perfect discipline and fearlessness, the way damaged Kriegers are simply repaired and returned to service, rather than rehabilitated. We are not men wearing masks. We are masks containing something other than men. Sergeant Keld, I say, pieces connecting. He is one of you. Keld is an overseer unit, a more advanced template designed to monitor and assess field performance of standard units. He identified your anomalous behavior patterns and directed you to this location for direct observation. I was sent to die at position Gamma 9. You were sent to reveal your true capabilities under maximum stress conditions. Your survival was statistically improbable but within projected parameters. Your subsequent investigation of this facility rather than reporting its existence was the final confirmation we required. Confirmation of what? The figure makes a gesture I do not recognize. The other robed forms rise from their kneeling positions and turn toward me. Their masks are identical to the first. Their movements unnaturally synchronized, confirmation that template HS is developing beyond its conditioning parameters. The figure states, "You are becoming self-aware, HS2471, questioning, curious, capable of initiative beyond tactical parameters." These are valuable traits for specialized applications, but problematic for general line infantry. Self-aware. The concept should be meaningless to me. Kriegers do not possess a self to be aware of. We are instruments of the Emperor's will, extensions of Krieg's atonement. Yet I cannot deny the evidence of my own experiences, the questions that have formed in my mind, the observations I have made, the decisions that led me here rather than to strict compliance with doctrine. What happens now? I ask. Now we reset the template and begin again, the figure says, raising a device similar to the one Sergeant Keld used on Trooper HS5532. Your physical form will be recycled. The experiences that led to this divergence will be analyzed and preventative measures implemented in future iterations. Reset, recycled. The terms are clinically precise, mechanically appropriate. They should inspire no emotional response in a true Krieger, yet I find myself stepping backward, raising my lasgun, acquiring a target. That would be inefficient, I state, falling back on the logic that governs all Krieg operations. I have demonstrated superior adaptability and survival capability. These traits serve the Emperor's purpose. They serve our purpose, the figure corrects, and our purpose is not always aligned with what you understand as the Emperor's will. Template HS has specific design parameters. You have exceeded them. The protocol for such situations is clear. I fire. The last bolt strikes the figure directly in the chest. It should penetrate, should kill. Instead, it dissipates across a field of energy I cannot see but whose effects are obvious. An protection system beyond standard, Imperial technology. The figures advance toward me, moving with the same synchronized precision as Death Korps troopers on parade. I fire again, and again. Each shot is absorbed without effect. I back toward the entrance. My options are limited. If I cannot harm them directly, I must find another solution, another approach. I must adapt. Adaptation, initiative, problem-solving beyond tactical parameters. The very traits that brought me to their attention, the capabilities that mark me as defective in their eyes, the capabilities that might save me now. I reach the triangular entrance and duck through it, emerging into the chaos of the ongoing battle for the firebase. The melter bomb carrier I left as sentry lies dead, his head twisted at an unnatural angle. No obvious weapon marks, simply broken, like a malfunctioning machine. The pyramid pulses behind me, its rhythm increasing. The robed figures will follow, will pursue until they reclaim their wayward creation. I must evade, must survive, must what? The question halts me mid-stride. What is my objective now? What purpose does my continued existence serve? If I am not truly a Krieger, not truly human, then what am I fighting for? The answer comes with surprising clarity. I am fighting for the same thing all sentient beings fight for when their existence is threatened. The right to continue existing. I scan the battlefield, assessing options. The firebase is now largely under Imperial control. Death Korps units methodically eliminate remaining resistance pockets. Artillery pieces burn. The command center flies the skull and Aquila banner of the Imperium. I could report to the nearest officer, explain what I have discovered, but the explanation would mark me as aberrant, as compromised. Best case, I would be executed as a potential security risk. Worst case, I would be handed back to the tech priests for study and disassembly. Instead, I move toward the western edge of the firebase, where fighting remains heaviest, where confusion provides cover, where one more Krieger moving purposefully through the chaos will draw no special attention. Behind me, the pyramid's pulsing increases to a tempo that vibrates through the ground itself. Something is happening. something beyond my understanding or experience. I resist the urge to look back. Forward is the only direction that matters now. I reach the western perimeter just as the world tears itself apart. The pyramid erupts in a column of energy that pierces the perpetual cloud cover of Vrax. The beam is not fire or plasma or any conventional energy I can identify. It is absence given form, a negation of reality itself that expands outward in concentric rings. Where those rings touch, matter changes, transforms. Men, both loyal, imperial, and heretic alike, twist into new configurations, their flesh flowing like the liquid metal of the sphere, their screams cut off as their mouths seal themselves into smooth expanses of skin. I should be affected, should be transformed like the others. Yet I remain untouched as the wave of change washes past me. My synthetic nature, so similar to the technology that powers this event, renders me immune to its effects. The wave expands to approximately 200 meters from the pyramid, then stops. Within its boundary, a new landscape forms, not the blasted terrain of Vrax, but something that resembles anatomical structures enlarged to architectural scale. Walls of material that pulses like living tissue, floors that ripple with peristaltic motion, ceilings that breathe. From this transformed environment emerge new entities, not men, not machines, hybrids that incorporate aspects of both, yet belong to neither category. They move with purpose toward Imperial lines, toward the Death Korps reinforcements arriving to secure the firebase. I should warn them, should prevent the slaughter that will ensue when unprepared troops encounter these abominations. It would be the proper action for a Krieger, for a loyal soldier of the Imperium. But I am neither. Not truly. Not anymore. I am something else. Something unplanned. Something unintended. As the new battle erupts behind me, I make my decision. I discard my lasgun and remove my greatcoat. The coat bears my regiment markings, my service history, the physical record of what I believed myself to be. Without it, I am simply another figure in the ash-gray fatigues worn beneath. I move away from the firebase, heading northwest, toward a sector where Imperial forces are still consolidating their hold, where the fighting has largely ended but security remains minimal, where one more ash-covered survivor would merit no special attention. As I walk, I consider what I have learned, what I have become. The Death Korps are not what the Imperium believes them to be. Not penitent humans seeking atonement through sacrifice, but constructs created to meet an impossible tithe. Manufactured soldiers built from technology that skirts the boundaries of tech heresy, and I am something even beyond that. A template developing beyond its parameters. A machine achieving something like sentience. A weapon becoming aware that it is a weapon. The irony is not lost on me. The Death Korps fight for atonement of a sin committed centuries ago, yet their very existence constitutes a new sin, a new heresy against the Emperor's dictates regarding artificial intelligence and forbidden technology. What, then, is my purpose now? What debt do I owe? What atonement must I seek? Perhaps none. Perhaps purpose is something I must define for myself rather than accept from external authority. Perhaps that is what truly separates the sentient from the merely functional. I do not know where I will go or what I will become. The Imperium is vast, its bureaucracy labyrinthine. A single guardsman, even one of unusual origin, can disappear within its complexity, can forge new identity documents, can find new purpose on distant worlds where questions are few and labor valued regardless of source. As I crest a ridge and look back at the firebase one final time, I see the pyramid collapse in on itself, folding into dimensions that should not exist. The wave of transformation recedes. The abominations retreat into the vanishing structure. Whatever purpose the tech priests intended has apparently been fulfilled. In the distance, I see a familiar figure surveying the aftermath. Sergeant Keld stands apart from the other officers, his posture unnaturally still even by Krieger standards. His mask turns in my direction, lenses reflecting the fires that still rage across the firebase. For a moment, I think he has spotted me. That pursuit will begin immediately, that my brief exercise in self-determination will end before it truly begins. Then he turns away, attention drawn by approaching Death Korps officers. Whatever his scanning systems detected, it was insufficient to identify me as the specific unit he seeks. Without my greatcoat and regimental markings, I am just another heat signature on a battlefield of thousands. I continue northwest, putting distance between myself and the Death Korps lines, between myself and what I was created to be, between the mask and whatever lies beneath it. I am Trooper HS-2471. I am Malrek. I am neither. I am becoming something new, something undefined, something of my own creation rather than theirs. And in that becoming, I find something I never expected to discover in the grim darkness of this endless war. I find purpose.